Good morning, Ohio. James Lewis of the Gruel and Truth Radio Network here with Mike Hermann. So, Mike, thank you for joining us to talk about Retromania Wrestling. We're excited about that coming out later on this year.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and yeah, we're working hard.
So,
get that game in everybody's hands.
So, who is RetroSoft Studios?
So, RetroSoft Studios is a company I formed, I guess, about 2 years ago now. And the people working on this is our first game is Retromania Wrestling. So we have right now we're about 15 people working on the game. Includes a couple programmers. Most of that though is artists doing artwork. There's so much artwork in the sprite-based wrestling game with all the animations and moves that we have to do. So most of our team is made up of artists, but then we also have someone who helps out in the business relations department as far as licensing and all that. And then another guy helps me out with social media as well. So we're a fairly small team. We're set up basically remotely throughout the world. We have representation on 5 different continents.
Oh, wow. So this is
so the only ones not covered are Antarctica, and we don't have anyone from Africa currently.
Wow. So definitely a global project and definitely a passion project. So how did
100%.
How did you start the company?
Yeah, so really it started, I want to say like almost 10 years ago, around there, where I was a huge fan of WrestleFest growing up. It was my favorite arcade game. It never made it to the home consoles, but I loved like WrestleFest and all the games before it, like the 2D arcade-style wrestling games, like Mat Mania, WWF Superstars, tag team wrestling, pro wrestling on the NES, and all those games I really love. And they're kind of that pick-up-and-play arcade style, not super complicated, and just a lot of fun. So they kind of stopped after WrestleFest because the PS4 or PS1, sorry, not PS4, PS1 came out shortly after that, and the N64, and then the move to 3D really. And not that some of those early 3D games were amazing. You have No Mercy, is the creme de la creme of 3D wrestling games. But, that didn't have, to me, probably more from a nostalgia point, that didn't, drive me as much as those early 2D games. So I decided, as a hobby, I would just start making new wrestling. And at the time, I just wanted to recreate the original and add some new characters to it. And this was all going to be a hobby project, give it away for free. I had a small following on a message forum. And that was pretty much it. But, I'm married, I have kids, and, I pick it up for a couple weeks and then put it down for a couple months. And it really didn't go anywhere. So fast forward to 2000, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this for real. No one had released a retro, all the retro games that have become really big in the last couple of years, and that pixel-style RPGs and platforms, all that stuff has really gotten popular again, but no wrestling games. So I said, you know what, if no one's going to make it, I'll do it myself. So that's kind of how we got started.
Sounds great. I agree with you. WrestleFest was an amazing game. What was it? Hogan, Warrior, Earthquake, Slaughter, Henning, the Road Warriors, all kinds of great performers. Jake the Snake, $1 Million Man. I mean, just a remarkable roster. And, of course, those are the type of games people love to play is, something with that great history and tradition. So when can we play Retromania approximately?
Our target is July of this year. So, it's going to be close. I'm not sure when in July. We were targeting July 14th, but, we're hoping to hit that. The one thing I'll say is we're not going to rush it out. We're more concerned with quality. This is like 100% passion project. It's my dream to make this game. I'm making a game that I want to play. So I'm going to, take my time, and as a team, we're going to take our time to make sure we make this as good as it can be. So July is the tentative release date, but we aren't afraid to push it back. Now, I'm not talking Duke Nukem Forever type push. But, we definitely don't want to rush something to market just to meet a date. We want to make sure it's a quality game that people can enjoy for a long, long time.
So you mean you don't plan on just releasing it no matter what, when the date is, even if it is a dumpster fire, even if it's worse than the previous year, which makes no sense, because how could it get worse? You would think it could automatically get better, especially if you're a billion-dollar company. I don't know. I don't think I'm referring to anybody in particular, but 2K. But they.
Well, yeah, I know. We don't have. Luckily for us, we don't have the same constraints they do as far as stockholders and all that stuff. So it's down to me being happy with it. The only thing it really affects is our marketing campaign, which we are kind of gearing up, and we've been pushing to get to this point. We're at like 60,000 strong now across our social media platforms. So we don't want people to get sick of hearing the hype and not have a game to produce. So that's really our only concern is to keep. So we want to keep releasing information and keep our fans that have been on this ride with us for the last year to keep them interested and keep them excited for the release. That's going to be our biggest challenge if it's not ready exactly at July.
So we're saying basically right around July.
Yep.
And then, of course, we want to know where we can play it. What platforms?
Yep. So we're going to be on Nintendo Switch, Sony PS4, Microsoft Xbox One, and PC via Steam right now. We may add some additional online or PC stores as well.
The funny part was I didn't originally see the PlayStation 4 part. I just saw the Switch, and I go, oh, my gosh, that game looks like so much fun. I might have to buy a Switch just so I could play it, that kind of thing. Because
well, we announced the platforms as we got approved. So being a small first time indie developer without a publisher, it was a little. I was expecting it to take a little bit longer to get approved, and surprisingly, Nintendo was the first one. That was the quickest approval process. And then the other two followed suit after, but Nintendo was the first one that we actually got accepted to. So we announced that first, and then we kind of made a big deal out of each announcement. So it's anything we're trying to generate, so we have someone to let know when the game does launch. Yeah, hey, we want people to know that it's launched. So we're slowly building our audience to make sure we have a list of people that we can say, hey, the game's available, go buy.
So why do you love wrestling?
I just, it was a young age. I loved it. It's, I saw it on television for the first time at a friend's house. I slept over a friend's house and he put it on, and it was before WrestleMania 1. So it had to be like 84, 85 time frame. Right when Hogan started getting big, and he put it on, and I was instantly like mesmerized by it. Like, oh, this is awesome! The characters on it, the athleticism, the fighting in the ring, and everything. And then I made my way over to actually tried to watch it in my own house, and I forgot what time it was on or whatever, and I ended up watching the NWA. Jim Crockett Promotions, Worldwide Wrestling was on in my area. On Channel 17 outside Philadelphia. And that's what I really like. I watched it every week at 1 o'clock, and it was just awesome. Rock and Roll Express, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, Nikita Koloff, all those guys, Ronnie Garvin, eventually the Freebirds, the Road Warriors, Powers of Pain, all these guys. And I loved it. Then I started watching both religiously, and I pretty much up through college. And it's funny, I didn't watch a ton of the Attitude Era, to be honest with you. I still followed it, but at that point I was working, starting to raise a family, and I still always followed it. I always know who the champion was, but I didn't religiously watch it as much anymore. But then I started getting back into it the last couple of years, and it's been great, and I've just always really liked it.
And the amazing thing, of course, now is there's more options than ever before. Because not just WWE, not just AEW, but MLW, OVW. There's so many organizations out there. New Japan.
NWA, Ring of Honor,
are still back. Ring of Honor, yeah. Impact, yeah.
Impact, yep.
Yeah, so there are so many great organizations out there, and of course, there's so many options to watch it on the internet. So that is remarkable. So,
yeah, it's amazing.
So
and just YouTube, you'll go down. something will come up on my feed on YouTube because I follow some guys who talk about wrestling and stuff like that, and a match will come up, and I'll just sit there and watch it, like an old school match that I haven't seen, or even a new one, like, a new independent wrestling match.
So who is in the game so far?
So we have the Road Warriors. They made the return, the only team to return from the original WrestleFest. Fortunately, we couldn't get any other licenses. Most are owned by WWE. So we have the Road Warriors back. Tommy Dreamer and the House of Hardcore. The BWO making their first appearance in a game as the BWO. They've been in other games, but not as the BWO. So that's Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, Hollywood Nova Jr., Indy Star, Jeff Cobb, another one who showed up in AEW a little while ago. Colt Cabana, Austin Idol back from Memphis Wrestling, which is he was most known for. Nick Aldis, of course, in the NWA. Our winner of our social media Indie Mania tournament, Warhorse, who, if you haven't seen him, definitely Google him. You'll see some YouTube stuff on him. He won a social media 32-man tournament based on fan voting. Dave LaGreca and Busted Open Radio had a vote, and then our studio had a vote, and he won the Indie Mania tournament. I'm being careful to make sure I mention guys that we haven't announced yet, because we have a couple that we haven't announced yet, and I don't want to give them away just yet, because we're still waiting on some artwork to be done for that. But who am I missing?
Johnny Retro.
Johnny, of course, yeah, that's one of the big ones, right? So Johnny Retro, who's now back in the WWE as another name, but he's great. He's featured in our story mode, which will be kind of like a choose your own adventure. If you remember those books, as if you were a kid, so it's not going to be Skyrim in any terms. As far as the story mode goes, but it's a cool story mode written by, a writer who's a professor and teaches, video game writing.
That sounds exciting. Sounds like
we think people will really like that. So, and then I think, I got everybody. That's everybody so far.
So what modes are in the game? Obviously the story mode, but I understand there's 10 pounds of gold?
Right, so the 10 pounds of gold mode will take you through, basically that's your kind of typical ladder match like you'd see in a fighting game, where you have to go through the roster, and at the end you're going to face Nick Aldis for the 10 pounds of gold. So that's a single player campaign. Then you have a versus match, which you can select from single player tag team, 6-man tag, 8-man tag, a 3-way match, or a 4-way match. All of those matches, as far as from a tag team perspective, can be like a Survivor Series style elimination match or just a regular tag team match. You can do a falls count anywhere. We have 2 types of cages in the game as well. As the big blue one from, I remember most from WrestleMania 2 when King Kong Bundy and Hulk Hogan fought in it. But the big blue cage from WWF, and the old traditional chain link steel cage as well.
Excellent. And then, of course, the Retro Rumble. I want to hear about this.
Yep. Yeah, so we also have, a Rumble-style match where you can pick how often different people come out, and it's up to 8 wrestlers will be in the ring at once. And that is user-definable. It's pretty chaotic with 8 wrestlers in the ring at once. So you can actually set how many wrestlers you want to limit in the game. There's no technical reason to limit it, but through play testing and focus groups, some people love it, some people think it's a little too much. So we've made that user definable.
And then, of course, you can play online, I would assume.
Not yet. So it's something we already started working on, but it's going to take a lot of work to get up to snuff. So it's something in the works, but at launch, it's not going to be online. It's going to be couch co-op to start. Okay. And then we're hoping to add online post-launch at some point. We didn't want to risk having a buggy online experience. So once the gameplay is solid, we did the foundation for online mode. Then we're going to get our team dedicated to just working on online and really fine-tuning it and making sure it works properly.
And it sounds like, I'm going to guess this is a way of what you win, your reward, your prizes, basically. The sticker book?
Yeah, so we have that. That's a feature we originally were going to put in. I'm not sure if we're definitely going to do the sticker book. That was how we were thinking about doing it originally. Unfortunately, a couple things had to get cut or delayed. I should say my feature list that I wanted to put in this game was huge, right? So going through that, we had to be able to actually complete the game in a timely manner. Right, and within somewhat of a budget. Unfortunately, I don't have unlimited budget and unlimited time. So certain things we may just put off. I think that screenshot we had in there, we did have a sticker book mode in there, which I thought was a cool idea that you'd fill up your sticker book as you won different things. We are going to have some type of unlockables in there, but I'm not sure if it's going to still take the form of that sticker book mode.
And then, of course, the controls are one of the most important parts of the game. What are the controls like for, say, the PS4?
Yeah, so they're basically the same on all platforms, but we basically went with the original Technos of Japan style controls that they used back in Mat Mania, where if you get close to somebody, it auto grapples. There's no dedicated grapple button. I would say just the controls in general are a hybrid of, let's say, Fire Pro Wrestling had a baby with the original WrestleFest.
Oh, man.
So we have, one of the things I didn't like about the original WrestleFest, one of the few things, is that you couldn't really control what moves you did and when you did them.
Yeah.
There was a natural progression of moves in the game, which was nice, but if you were like Jake the Snake Roberts, you would start out doing body slam and snapmare, and then you do a side slam, or side suplex, and then you would progress to your DDT. Right, and there's maybe a couple other things in there. I think he had a little, maybe a short clothesline or something like that. But anyway,
the short clothesline. Yeah.
Right. So we didn't want to limit people to just just such a small set of moves. So we have a lot more moves per wrestle in our game than the original WrestleFest had. Not quite as many as Fire Pro, but definitely a lot more than the original. We have 3. Basically, it's 4 main buttons you use to play the game. A weak move, a medium move, and a strong move, and then our dedicated run button. And then we also have a tag button and a taunt button, which are used in tag team matches. Taunt can be used to extend your momentum meter. But, your typical, up plus a button, down plus a button, left plus a button, right plus a button, all does different moves.
Oh, nice.
And then you can, in addition, from WrestleFest, you were limited to do Irish whips just into the side ropes. You can do corner Irish whips in ours, corner grapple moves, things like that. But it's more, there is definitely a randomness to our game as well. So it's more of an arcade experience. And it's not, Fire Pro is strictly based on timing. Ours, there is a timing aspect to it, but it's not as, I want to say, precise as Fire Pro's, where if you've never played before, you'll still have a chance at winning. You know what I mean?
That is the thing that I was about to ask you about, because quite frankly, Fire Pro, I love the ideal of it. I love the graphics. I stink out loud at it, so
Right.
It has been driving me crazy. The double enforcer, Andrew Anderson, I saw it on his Facebook one day. He's a wrestler out of New York, was on that show, the Batman show Gotham. And I saw his character on there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that game looks so cool. And then I played it, and I can't do anything. So, that didn't do me any good. And then, of course, 2K, I can't kick out of any pins because I can't hit X at the right time. So I'm hoping your game...
It's much more simplistic than those games, like the 2K games and even Fire Pro. We're going for super fun factor, and we do have a difficulty slider in our game, and then you can change that however you want it. So that we have some work to do on that, because we definitely have to tweak that. Our game's kind of hard right now until you get the hang of it. We've found in testing, so we're very conscious of that, and we're making ways to make it easier or harder depending on how you want it. And you're going to be able to do that right off the bat. You won't have to unlock anything. Once you launch the game, you can select your difficulty mode right off the bat.
That's what I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really important, every decision we make for the game is basically, is it more fun if we add that, So that's the first thing we have to answer whenever we suggest a change or anything like that is like, well, does that make the game more fun to play? And we got a lot of great feedback. We were at PAX East right before this whole, world situation hit. We were at PAX East in Boston at the end of February, and we had hundreds of people play the game, and, it went really well. We got some great feedback from people. It wasn't 100% positive, but it was mostly positive feedback, like 95%, I'd say. And the 5% was great constructive feedback that we're definitely addressing. So, our biggest thing is it fun? And we want to make it as fun as we can.
Now, of course, the toughest question I'm going to ask, what is the difference between the Road Warriors and the Legion of Doom?
Well, according to them, they own both names. So
oh, they do?
I think
good.
The story as Animal said it, I think I saw this on an interview, but I think WWF wanted to change them to be known as the Legion of Doom. And he's like, well, we're already known as that kind of already. We're known as the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, but he's like, all right, whatever you want to do.
Exactly. So they went with it. Yeah, because the way I understand it, the Road Warriors were the tag team, and the Legion of Doom was a group that had the Road Warriors and like Jake the Snake and like 3 or 4 other people. Right.
I think, yeah. So, we just went with, we didn't want to cause any kind of controversy. So we went with the original name, the Road Warriors.
I agree with you. I think that's a much better way to go. Plus, they were a much better tag team than the Legion of Doom later in there when they just kept coming up with all the different variations when they replaced Hawk, and that was just awful. But it sounds like an amazing game. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun for fans of all ages because, like you said, you have Road Warriors and Austin Idol from classic days, and then, of course, you have the newer wrestlers like Zack Sabre, and, of course, wrestlers in between, Tommy Dreamer and Johnny Retro. So, I mean, it sounds like there's something for everybody.
Really want to do we got in a little bit of heat on our roster, but we really wanted to showcase that we want to add people from every era of wrestling. We like I think we have a good eclectic roster that has, like you said, a little bit for everybody. So you may not love every guy on our roster, but you're going to love somebody on it. You know what I mean? One of those guys is going to stick out to you. So we're really trying to go for different looks of guys, quality guys, that were available, easy to deal with, easy to work with. And hopefully we'll have a few more surprises coming up.
Exactly. And that's one of the things on a wrestling game. You want to have somebody that you don't like on the game because that's the guy you're going to beat the heck out of on a regular basis. Exactly. I don't want to, be JBL and beat up Blue Meanie all the time, but I probably will be. So not that anybody wants to be JBL. He's a complete... But anyway, I mean, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show today. Any other important information, social media, website that the fans should check out?
Yeah, just RetromaniaWrestling.com is our website. We have all of our information on there. At Retrosoft Studios on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And then, pre-orders are out now if you're interested for the Switch and the PC. And then we'll be in all the e-shops and online stores 30 days before we launch for pre-orders, and then obviously when we launch. And then the only one thing I'll bring up, because we get asked it a lot as far as a physical release of the game, we are talking to a couple companies. If we do something like that, it'll be post-launch. So if we do a physical release, it'll be post-launch.
Okay, so in other words, the original one, it'll be for download, and then as it progresses, there might be a physical copy of the game.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That works. I was going to say, shoot, nowadays most people are downloading their games anyway, so it's not...
Right, that is the trend, absolutely. But it's surprisingly, I think our demographic may be a little bit older for the game.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of questions about a physical release.
Exactly. And then with, of course, the main video game place being down in a lot of states, hopefully it'll be back up by then, but... If it's not, you'll still have the option to download it. So that sounds great. It sounds like an
absolutely
option. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.